You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Sick of those trivia podcasts that you don't even understand how to operate and they just have too many levers and buttons?
There's got to be a better way.
Now there is, with Good Job Brain, an offbeat quiz show and trivia podcast that makes learning new things easy and fun.
I just learned that artificial vanilla flavoring sometimes comes from the anal glands of a beaver, and now I can never shake that mental image. Thanks, Good Job Brain.
Good Job Brain is available for the low price of just 4 easy payments of free. It's a podcast.
Good Job Brain is part of Airwave Media and available on all podcast apps. Operators are standing by.
Hold your ears, folks. It's showtime.
People pay good money to see this movie. When they go out to a theater, they want cold sodas, hot popcorn, and no monsters in the projection booth.
Everyone pretend podcasting isn't boring.
Turn it off. Turn it off.
No soy un árbol. Un hombre desnudo. Un soldado verde. Un niño. Es el elegido.
Tía, chaval, ¿tú estás loco? ¡Estoy hasta los cojones de la pensión compensatoria! ¡De los jueces! ¡Y de la bruja de su madre! ¡Aparte, señora! ¡Abre, hijo de puta!
Silvia, perdona. A ver, te pregunto yo lo que le das de merendar al niño.
¡Elena! ¡Hostia puta! ¡No la toques! ¡Oye, que se te va a pegar, joder!
La brujería, el concepto, nació aquí.
¡Hola, chaval! ¿Qué hace con la escoba?
Barrer no, desde luego. Pero ellas nunca piensan lo que parece que piensan. ¿Y en qué piensan? No lo sé, pero piensan otra cosa.
¿Y nosotras qué somos?
Una chica de tu edad lo que tiene que hacer es drogarse.
Folla como una perra, miente todo lo que puedas, engaña a los hombres, que estás en la edad.
Ha llegado el momento de la venganza. ¿A dónde vais?
A impedir que tu madre destruya la civilización occidental. ¿Te parece bien?
¡Y hará justicia!
¡Justicia! ¿Pero qué dices? ¡Tú eres idiota! ¿Que me dejo llevar?
A mí las brujas no me dan miedo. A mí lo que me dan miedo son los hijos de puta.
Welcome to the projection booth. I'm your host, Mike White. Joining me once again is Mr. Andrew Leavold.
Hey, great to be here, Mike. Thank you for actually allowing me back. I don't know if I'm blessed or cursed.
And also joining us in the booth for the first time is Ms. Elena Romea.
Hola, hola.
Shocktober 2021 continues with a look at Álex de la Iglesia's 2013 film, Witching and Bitching. And I will say right up front that I fucking hate that title. Though I don't think I can easily pronounce the original, La Brujas de Zara.
Can I help you?
Yes, please.
Las Brujas de Zugarramurdi.
But it's a much better title. Anyway, it's the story of 2 men who rob a gold rebuyer along with one of the men's sons. They're on the run with the taxi driver they hijack and his passenger. On the run from the cops, they cross paths with a trio of witches in the spooky village of
Zugarramurdi.
We will be ruining Witching and Bitching as we go along, so if you don't want anything ruined, turn off the podcast and come back. We will still be here. So, Andrew, when was the first time you saw Witching and Bitching, and what did you think, sir?
I would have seen it very soon after the film was released because I have to make a caveat at the start of this. I mean, I'm a massive Álex de la Iglesia fan. Ever since I saw El Día de la Bestia at the movies in Australia, which is another small miracle because we don't get that many Spanish films on the big screen, I went bananas. And between that film and his first feature, Agion Mutante. That basically sealed the deal. That first film used to play on SBS, our foreign broadcast channel. I would periodically just check in every year to 18 months and see what Álex has been doing. And it's kind of like hanging out with an old friend, you know, meeting up in a bar, swapping stories and catching up with the films you really dug. And even though I've never met the guy, it's very much like hanging out with an old friend every time a new film of his comes out. So I would have seen that. And in fact, preparing for today, I decided to go back and watch every De La Iglesia feature in chronological order. I just finished this afternoon, and man, I've got a very, very clear idea of where this film sits now in Alex's filmography, you know, how it stacks up. And I'm very happy to say top 5 De La Iglesia films out of 16. Pretty damn good, because there's some incredible competition in there.
And Elena, how about yourself?
I watched this film for the first time at the theaters because normally I like to watch Álex de la Iglesia's films at the cinema. It's not one of my favorite films, but I quite like it. But I will tell you later things about it that I don't like at all. Okay, I think it's a kind of return to the roots that, you know, to the cinema of the Day of the Beast, for example, because they have some things in common, but with new things. And also it's this movie reflects perfectly the vital situation Álex de la Iglesia was experiencing, because Álex de la Iglesia got divorced because while he was making the TV show Plutón Verbenero, awful one, don't watch it. He met Carolina Bank, that's one of the main stars of this movie, and he fell in love and divorced his wife, and they got two daughters.
Scandalo.
No, not so much, because Álex de la Iglesia normally is not in, you know, the gossipy magazines or those kind of things. But the thing is that they did another movie before this that in Spanish is called Balada Triste de Trompeta. I don't remember the name in English, sorry.
They called it Last Circus in Australia. Is it Sad Ballad of the Trumpet?
Something like that. It's because of the name of a song that is played inside the movie. When he wrote the movie, he was in the middle of the divorce, fighting for the custody of the daughters, because it's like a kind of obsession during the film. He got a lot of jokes, you know, the Spanish sense of humor. But in this case, I find it not so proper, a kind of chauvinist sense of humor because of this vital moment. But I rewatched it like 3 or 4 times, and I think it's a good movie. That's for introduction. Later I will talk more because I'm very talkative. I'm very sorry. Just cut me down.
This was a first-time view for me. I have not seen as many De La Iglesia films as I would like. Like you, I saw El Dia de la Bestia as my first one, and I absolutely loved it. I really can't get enough of that film. I even rewatched it for preparation for this. I didn't go back and watch every single one of his films. I've had a lot of his films collected over the years, and I just haven't watched them. I don't know why.
Is that an unusual thing to do?
What, to collect films and not watch them?
No, to go and rewatch every person's film in chronological order.
No, that's a wonderful thing to do. I wish I had the time to do it.
In my defense, I also watched every Carry On film chronologically, and that's 30 films. So, I don't know.
I just hope you didn't watch those for this episode.
We're not talking about...
I've been reading up a lot on De La Iglesia. There seems to be a common theme of urban versus rural, and I know with De La Bestia, it starts more rural and moves more urban, the big bad city, versus this one starts in the city and then moves out to the rural stuff. And my God, the beginning of this film just grabs you and shakes you and says, this is going to be a lot of fun. I don't know if it maintains that level of excitement throughout the entire thing, but this opening robbery scene that they have is so fun. And just to see all of these characters, like, I'm not familiar with Madrid. I'm more familiar with Barcelona.
It's like you say that we're going to go to Spain, but have I ever been to Barcelona?
Barcelona. And not yet, but we're going. Porque esto bravo y Barcelona y fantástico.
No, we are not going to Barcelona, okay? We have discussed going to Barcelona, but we are never going to go to Barcelona.
Not with an attitude like that, we're not.
Oh, God.
But it feels very similar as far as La Rambla and all of these characters that are there and people, you know, like the human statues and all these kind of things. And you've got very much the same thing with this, having our main character dressed up all in silver as Jesus Christ with this little cell phone and his right by his junk. I love it. I find the opening of this, probably the first 10 minutes of it, to just be such a thrill ride and so fun. And just the interaction once they get into this guy's taxi. I love all that stuff that's going on, though I have to admit, I feel that it kind of peters out after that and never really gets back up to that level.
The place where the movie starts with the robbery and so is just where, if you remember the Day of the Beast, there is a scene in which we have the three wise men. That is, we don't have Santa Claus, we have the three wise men. You know, when the three wise men are asking for the kids what do you want for Christmas, etc., and the shooting starts, is 1 minute away from Puerta del Sol Square. That's where this movie starts. Also, another movie by Álex de la Iglesia, that is Crimen Perfecto.
Perfect Crime.
Thank you. This movie was recorded in a Walmart that is just near the Three Wise Men and the beginning of this movie. I know because I was there and I was asked to be an extra of the movie.
Oh my God, you're a star!
No, I was not an extra because I was in a hurry, but it was like great.
Oh, you could have been.
The Sol Square goes up a street. You go to the Three Wise Men and the Walmart. And up there is the Schweppes building, where, you know, in the Day of the Beast, the man is hanging. Everything is in just one street. I have to tell you that part of the city, Madrid, is always crowded. It's so busy that if the robbery has actually taken place, they couldn't move the taxi. But it's great with all the figures, the Chris, the Bob Esponja, and
I did really appreciate that Patrick Star is hovering over the shot-up body of SpongeBob. I was very glad for that. The first time I watched this, I didn't really pick up on the whole thing of the very, very opening scene, which is the three witches together, and they're talking about a prophecy, and they are talking about a chosen one and gold, and they start to talk about a yellow sponge and a taxi, and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And then finally when I rewatched it the second time, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, this makes total sense what they're talking about here.
All makes sense on the rewatch. In fact, a lot of it makes sense on the rewatch because the film is very much like a headlong car plowing into a crowd of pedestrians, you know, bodies flying everywhere and just utter chaos. Chaos being one of the key words to describe Álex de la Iglesia's cinema.
But Spain is chaos in general, so...
That's why I feel very much at home there, I'm sure.
But you're right, Elena, as far as the chauvinism, not necessarily misogyny, I would say, but yeah, definitely the whole theme of our main character. He has gone through a divorce and is fighting for custody of his child, and that's why he had his child with him at the robbery. And I really like that interaction in the taxi when they're going back and forth, and that you don't notice at first that there's the extra passenger in the taxi. I really like that reveal. Is great. The way that the taxi driver kind of comes around to their side, but really their side is very much women are evil and why are they taking away our power? And really that's the whole theme of this movie, is this whole masculine versus feminine and women trying to take away men's power. And the more men, the better. They end up, there's two cops that get involved in this. There's the ex-wife that gets involved in this. Of course, she moves over to the side of the witches, whereas the cops are right there with the taxi driver and the soldier character, and they're all just wearing these big dunce hats at one point and crucified in front of the big fire waiting for a giant woman to come in and dispatch them all.
Yes, that's actually very funny. I didn't remember that there was an extra man inside the taxi. So when I rewatched it, it was like, what the fuck?
And that poor guy just gets abused.
Well, he ends up body parts, basically. He's dinner. From my perspective, I thought that that whole interaction between the guys ragging on women relentlessly, I thought it was a lot more satiric than you obviously did, armed with the knowledge that De La Iglesia was probably not very happy with women at the time. But, I mean, it harks back to the credit sequence, and rewatching Alex's films, you realize that the credit sequences are basically centerpiece. He borrows a lot from Hitchcock. One thing that he got from Saul Bass was the beauty of a great credit sequence. Witching and Bitchings is absolutely fantastic. And in there, you've got images of strong women throughout history. And those strong women include Myra Hindley, the British serial killer, juxtaposed with Angela Merkel. You know, that's just hilarious. I mean, I could just rewatch all the films just for the credit sequences.
If you have watched, that you should have because you have rewatched them all, you must remember that at the beginning of Balada Triste de Trompeta, at the beginning, what we have is a lot of actors and actresses from Spanish horror. At the beginning, you don't know why, but as the movie is going on, you say, come on, that's why we have that at the beginning. And if I remember well, The Day of the Beast, also there are devils on the credits, and so it's funny that you say that. I remember Margaret Thatcher was also on the credits, and it was like, what?
Yep, Margaret Thatcher and who else was it? Oh,
Frida Kahlo. There were
Frida
Betty
Kahlo
Davis.
And Margaret Thatcher. That's right.
Yeah, Betty Davis was in there. Marlene Dietrich.
One of the most frustrating things for an Australian viewer is missing out on so many of the pop culture and historical and social references that are in all of Alex's films. Watching something like the opening credits of Ballad of a Sad Trumpet means that I'm like, who's that guy? Who are these people? And all of the references in Dying of Laughter, the one where the two comedians are trying to kill each other, they're always referencing comedians from Spain's past. I'm like, who are these people?
No, they aren't comedians exactly. One of them is Paul Nasi, that is the Spanish werewolf, you know, the one who made werewolf Spanish movies. And while the people are laughing the hardest, what you have is all the companies and all the government, states, etc., that has given money to the movie. So it's like making fun of the producers.
Oh man, this is the stuff that we're missing out on, you know.
Sometimes when I was watching this movie, I was thinking about you too, because there are a lot of cultural references that are really funny that appear on the film that I know you don't understand, because there are things that I grew up with, but you don't know, because later when we talk about the bar in the middle, you know, of the road, what is on television for us is hilarious.
So like the old videotapes of the show that they keep watching.
Yeah, they're very, very important.
I've got a feeling that the reason why a lot of Alex's films don't travel is because of the very parochial nature of a lot of the humor, and because humor is a very important element of his work. And those cultural references are, you know, a massive part of his satire and his comedy. We only get to see the horror films or the outright action films. The comedies like Muertos de Risa, which is one of my favorite Álex films, and even something like Mi Gran Noche, which is talking about, you know, Spain's television past. I'm sitting there going, I'm sure this means a lot more to Spanish audiences than myself, right?
Mi Gran Noche is not about television past. Mi Gran Noche is about television present, because on New Year's Eve, we still have those kinds of TV shows on TV. But Muertos de Risa is a parody about a specific comedian duo that was here in Spain. So it's full of references, and it's one of my favorites as well. So they are difficult to understand, I think, for people who are not from Spain. And the Day of the Beast is full of Madrid jokes and Madrid things that maybe even more complicated.
I mean, what translates the best without knowing the what's going on with the actual Spanish culture is more the slapstick stuff. I mean, that stuff we can get no problem. People being hit, people falling, people arguing with each other, the old lady getting hit in the middle of the road, all those kind of things definitely translate. But yeah, all of this stuff around it is fascinating to me. And I'm so glad that you're here, Elena, to help explain some of this stuff, because I mean, even the title, the real title of the film, I had to do some digging around to find out, like, oh, that's where all of these witches were burned at. Okay, that makes sense why it is set in the city where it's set, or set in the village where it's set.
Spain is divided in 3 different parts. The one you know the best is the south, that is the flamenco one, the very religious one. Then we have Castilla. Castilla is where I live, that's where Madrid is. That's, it's religious as well, but we are very modern, very urban, and we have some specific things. But in the north of Spain, we have a lot of Celtic traditions, and also all the legends about witches that are very similar to the ones in the north of Europe. So they are totally different. I'm not very familiar with the Zugarramurdi witches story, because it's not my place, but it is true that something I heard before. It's not new for me, but it's the complexity of the legends here, because we are very different inside the country.
But you would have heard the legend of the black he-goat that they would take out of the field and bring along to the caves where the witches would hold their sabbats. And the black he-goat would turn into either a man or the devil himself. I took a little virtual walking tour of the village on YouTube. You can actually do a 20-minute walk around the village. And there's a museum there totally dedicated to the witchcraft legends of the village. And I just can't wait for the borders to reopen so I can just head back to Spain and go and hang out with the witches of northern Spain. This is going to be my new favorite place, I think, after Almeria, of course.
We have everything. Spain is totally different.
Well, the one thing that you guys don't have, which I like, that Sergio, the child, is he's been promised that they can go and live at Paris Disney after the robbery. And I love how the soldier character is like, oh, we have to go south so we can escape to Mexico.
One of my favorite things in films, and this probably makes me a bad person, but I really love children in peril. And this has kids in peril in spades. I mean, starting off with the robbery, but then having the kid end up in an oven surrounded by onions, and then passing through the anus of a fertility goddess.
Yes, that part was surprising, because if I remember well, normally Álex de la Iglesia never works with children. They are not part of, his characters.
Probably heard what happened to his first marriage.
He got 2 daughters with his first wife, and now Carolina Van and Álex de la Iglesia, I think they have 2 daughters also. So it's like, a big family.
Carolina's in the films. The kids will probably end up in, the sequel to 30 Coins. Who knows?
Carolina is the producer. She's the one behind the production. They now have made a production company that's going to produce some movies. Now they are going to present the first one at Sitges Festival. She's an interesting woman. First, Álex de la Iglesia's wife also was producer, was writer, was behind. But in the case of Carolina Van, she's more present in the work. So she's been criticized because, when you, okay, I'm going to say it, but, ironically, steal a husband, they are going to be criticized, but, the marriage was broken. And now the general comment is that since he has been with Carolina Bank, his movies are awful. So they are not worth because Carolina Bank changed his mind or whatever. So that's the feeling. And the truth is that he's producing things that are not so good. But I think his movies, his TV shows, etc., are acceptable as well.
I honestly believe that some of his least interesting films have been produced in the last 11 years, but also some of the best. I also believe that Carolina Bang is a very striking presence in the 4 films that she appears in, starting with Balada Triste de Trompeta, playing the acrobat, obviously Las Brujas, and Mi Gran Noche. I mean, these are just incredible performances, and she's very different in each one, but a very, very striking presence. And I would say equal with Blanca Suarez, who is another one of those very formidable female presences in the films from the last 11 years.
Well, Blanca Suarez is one of the most famous actresses here in Spain. She's the it girl, the influencer. She got a kind of romance with Mario Cassas that is still in the movie because Mario Cassas is the most famous, the most handsome for every woman in Spain. And Hugo Silva was first. In the past, it was Hugo Silva. Wow, the hottest, whatever. And then Mario Cassas. And it's very funny that they are together in the movie and fighting for a woman. You see, that's a little joke that is in the movie that you cannot understand if you are not from here. But it's very funny to see them because it's like Mario Casas got Hugo Silva's positions and those kind of things. And
I think Álex is really making fun of that in Mi Gran Noche, having him with the long blonde hair being this sex god.
Yeah. But Mario Casas is sex god today in Spain.
You're better than Hello Magazine.
That's a little bit about Carolina Bang, but then there's also, she's the youngest of the witches, and then there's the 2 older generations, the mother and the grandmother. And I love both of the actresses that are playing the mother and the grandmother, Carmen Maura and is it Terere Pavez? They are just wonderful, and especially Terele Pavez when she puts in those metal teeth that we see on the poster and the DVD cover and starts chomping on one of their arms. She is delightful, and Carmen Maura, she is just always so captivating. I've loved her ever since I started to see her. I think she was in a lot of Almodovar films, right?
Yeah, Carmen Maura was in the past one of Almodovar's favorite women. And I think she's a great actress. She has done a lot of different movies, a lot of plays for the theater. She's awesome. I don't know how to describe her. And the role she does here is great because at the beginning it's like, I am a full woman. I cannot walk. And then it's like, wow! So she's great. Also, the intonation she has talking in Spanish is the way posh, important women talk. And Terele Pavez, who passed away some little time ago, I think is one of my favorite actors ever. He was in movies from the 50s, from the 60s. She was a very brave woman because she was a single mother during Franco times. And being an actress, so kind of crazy. And she received a Goya Award, that is the most important award in our cinema, for the movie Mi Gran Noche. And it was the first time that woman got an award. And she was crying. The son was like, oh, my mother. And it was very, very moving. And I think Álex de la Iglesia wanted her to be recognized as a great actress because also she has like I don't know, it's the typical old woman from the north of Spain, that they look like witches.
She's a total ball breaker in every film. I mean, I think I counted about 10 Álex films that she plays the crusty old lady in. So if we're talking about the 3 generations of Álex superstars playing the 3 generations of Las Brujas, then Terele Paves is, just by far the star of the film, which I think is why Carmen Maura is a little bit further down in the credits. She knew that she was playing second fiddle to her mother, to the matriarch of the De La Iglesia film universe. And it was very sad to see her go.
Her voice is amazing because in real life, she was a very sweet woman. But in all the movies, she's like, your food, your drink, what do you want? And I love her. And I think in this movie, especially, she does a great part.
And the 4th major female character is Macarena Gomez as Silvia, the ex-wife of Jose, the Hugo Silva character. And I really like her, though she throws in very quickly with the witches. Very, very quickly.
I think.
Yeah, she goes over too quickly, just like how Carolina Bang goes over to the men's side way too quickly. It's like, whoa, what happened here? You're ready to eat these guys. Is it just because they were super sexy or what? But yeah, she throws over with the men. I'm like, oh, okay, is this a trick? Nope, she just moves over.
This is a cartoon. I mean, Álex is quoted in the press as saying that he made this film deliberately in the style of his earlier films, his dumb films, his mean films, and this is a cartoon. And critics who dissect the film and say that there's no second act or that there's no real character development, they're kind of missing the point that this is like a throwback to From Dusk Till Dawn. Or this is Peter Jackson's Brain Dead / Dead Alive or whatever you want to call it. This is just a mean-spirited cartoon and pure genre or a genre splicing, but splicing very dumb genres. There's nothing cerebral about this other than, a little offhanded commentary about the battle of the sexes.
Well, Macarena Gomez, I'm not a big fan of her as an actress because she always does the same part, that is the schizo lady. She became very famous on a TV show. I haven't seen it. It's a comedy, but she does that, like the crazy wife, the mad wife, some kind of things. And all the movies she has done, well, apart from Dagon, Dagon, it's the Fantastic Factory movie. The Stuart Gordon, I think.
Stuart Gordon, I don't know. It was the Cthulhu adaptation, and a really good one too.
Apart from that one, she always plays that role, also in 30 Coins, etc. And we don't expect her to be, a thoughtful person. No, she's going to take part and it's getting crazy and going against men for sure.
I agree with you, Andrew. This is very much a cartoon. I mean, it reminds me a lot of a Scooby-Doo cartoon at times, especially when they get to that village and things are all house. Yeah, exactly. There's haunted houses when they get into the bar, and there's the guy that lives under the toilet, and you see just the eyeball staring up out of the toilet or the hand reaching up out of the toilet. I'm just like, okay, I can see Shaggy just going in there to take a leak and freaking out.
I tell you what, if I was watching a Scooby-Doo cartoon as a child and I saw that fertility goddess coming to the fray, I would have been shitting myself for a month.
They might have had to have hidden the pendulous boobies that it has, though.
But it's quite funny because after seeing, because this the actress Maria Barranco, that's the one talking, with the machine, with the tool in the throat. That actually she was a very famous actress in the 80s. That she played crazy women roles and so. So when she appears with the hand and with the foot, and after you go to the loo and look down and you see the eyes and it's like, come on. It's one of my favorite moments.
I love the bartender. I can't remember the gentleman's name. Is it Enrique Villian? The guy with the crazy eye. Yes, I love it.
Right, man. He's another one of Alex's go-to guys. You want someone who looks a little shifty? Hello, Enrique.
Between him and the guy that actually lives under the toilet, I mean, both of those guys just have the craziest looks. I love it.
The one who lives under the toilet is Javier Botet. That is the creature in Rec. And also he's in the Stephen King's It. Yes, because he has a kind of illness. That's why he's so, the limbs are so long and the shape of the head, etc. So
that wasn't special effects?
No, it's not a special effects. He has that body. So he became famous with Rec, and after that he was called for several movies, and he has worked in the United States for Stephen King's It and for the movies I don't remember now. He's not a very good actor as we can see during the movie, okay? But the body is very, very I don't know how to describe it, and that's very scary for me.
If we're talking about Álex regulars, there's two guys who play witches in drag.
The ladies!
And we're talking Santiago Segura, who is another one of Alex's go-to guys. He was in Day of the Beast as the metalhead.
The metalhead, yeah, he's so good.
And you would have seen him in probably every Álex film that you've watched. He was also in a comedy series called Torrente, playing a sexist, racist cop.
He became famous because of the series, that saga. I don't like it at all. But he's like, he's like a celebrity in Spain, and I think it's one of Álex de la Iglesia's best friends, because they are always together, in the movies and so.
He's started to become a regular for Guillermo del Toro as well. I see him show up in like Blade 2, and he's one of Hannibal Chow's men in Pacific Rim. He's got these great sunglasses, and as soon as he showed up, I was like, I know that guy. Where do I know him from? And I had to look him up, and when I realized he was that metalhead, yeah, he is so good in Day of the Beast. I love his character, and that's the biggest loss for me. Spoilers for Day of the Beast, but that he dies and doesn't get to come back. I was always so sad about that.
He became famous with that movie, by the way.
I believe it.
But him as one of the two comedians in, Muertos de Risa, that's probably my favorite, where he's constantly getting slapped by his mean counterpart. The whole basis of his comedy act is being slapped.
And the socks.
And so it's just so sociopathic. But then the other guy in drag is an actor called Carlos Areces. And he was the lead. He was the sad clown in The Last Circus. He's a sort of chubby-looking, sad-looking guy. Not very sad in this one. He's quite happily chowing down into body parts. But he was a lead in The Last Circus, along with Antonio de la Torre. And having these guys, these are key figures in the Álex universe. And it's just kind of nice that they just kind of appear in women's clothing almost as a throwaway, but it's still just nice to have them along, even in a small part and in high heels.
Yeah, I love it. I didn't remember as well that they were in the movie and they were, like trans. And let me tell you, to give you a little background, that Carlos Areces, before becoming an actor, he became an actor with The Last Circus. He was in the world of comics. He was a comics writer and painter and so. he got a lot of different books and publications with a similar sense of humor to the one in Álex de la Iglesia's comics, because the Álex de la Iglesia's sense of humor is very similar to the one that we have here in general, okay? So he decided to become an actor because he didn't get money to live with the comics. So the first appearance was in Álex de la Iglesia's movie, The Last Circus. But I think he's great as an actor.
Absolutely brilliant. And the sight of him running around Madrid dressed as a clown, shooting 2 submachine guns, it's a work of art. And I mean, that's an interesting film as well, because that one is really maybe not the first, but it's the most self-conscious attempt to court the art house market, the festival circuit. And then he follows the film up with La Chispa de la Vida, which is a very straight, almost mainstream film. And then you have Witching and Bitching as the third film, which is an out-and-out genre film. So I think these are the 3 flavors of Álex. You know, the festival, the mainstream, and then the genre, the midnight movie crowd. You know, the TIFF midnight madness, crowd pleasers.
In the case of La Chispa de la Vida, here it was mainstream because the main character, that is José Mota, is one of the most famous comedians in Spain. He has a prime time TV series made of sketch, you know, on Spanish television, on the state television. So everybody knows that guy and everybody likes the kind of things. But I don't get the movie. I didn't like it at all. That one is what I think is my least favorite movie by Álex.
That's in my bottom 5.
In the case of Last Circus, it's also a kind of comedy, but it's a very serious movie, as it is set in a time, in Franco times, and it's quite complex politically speaking.
I believe that. Yeah. And bleakly funny. It's so dark.
There's the moment in which Carlos Areces thinks the other guy, Antonio de la Torre, is beating Carolina Bank, you know, and abusing her, but actually they are fucking, and he's just hiding behind and saying, don't do it, don't hurt her, but they are fucking, and you are laughing or something that is related to abuse. So it's like,
When they get to the village and they go in, our main characters go in and they meet some of these crazy characters. I am curious about that ventriloquist on the TV. You said that that's got some significance.
First, they are watching something about the fall of the Berlin Wall that has no sense. But second, what they are playing, you know, the man with the puppet, you know, that is a raven. Okay, that man was the producer of all the programs like Mi Gran Noche, that not only happen on New Year's Eve, but also on Saturday night on the Spanish state television. But that guy got 3 different puppets. One is the raven, other was a kid, another was an old lady. The thing is that this was not very funny, but he got a lot of money. But he was the producer of mainly 80% of TV shows in Spain, the ones with Macarena Gómez, the ones with all these actors, actresses, etc. Nowadays, he is in jail because of money things, you know, because of, you know, the money havens, those kinds. And also something related to drug dealing, etc. You know, he got a lot of money, and maybe even child abuse. But when I watched him on TV, it was like, oh my God! And what the raven is saying, "Toma Moreno," is something that is nowadays is in our everyday language. You know, "Toma Moreno." It's like, for example, you know, this TV show that is called Stories to Keep You Awake by Chicho Ibáñez Serrador. You know, the director of Who Can Kill a Child. And okay, he got a TV show that's called, well, in Spanish it's called Historias para no dormir. That's the stories not to make you, to keep you awake. Okay.
Yeah, Álex did one of those, I believe.
Yeah, yes, in the remake, he did one of these. And it's very funny because we have some expressions in the Spanish language, like this one, Historias para no dormir, Toma Moreno, that we took from television, and we took several ones from the TV show of the Raven with the puppet. So, watching the tapes there, it was like, come on, this is something only a Spaniard can understand, because it's not here. But this is something, one of the best things in the movie to see José Luis Moreno, that's the name of the guy. They're like, why?
So it's so subversive.
Yeah.
And cheeky.
Yeah. And also those images may have rights from the Spanish state television, so it should have been difficult to include them in the movie.
That guy should have kept his hand in the puppet by the sound of it.
What can you tell us about the two cops that are after them? Because there's the whole subplot of the cops and then the ex-wife, and that she's basically leading them to the robbers.
Well, the main guy, Pepón Nieto.
And the other one is Sekun de la Rosa. Sekun de la Rosa is also a Spanish director for queer cinema. And he was also on TV for playing a gay in a TV show. Pepón Nieto is very famous also from TV. They are in these different roles, and I love them. They are very special. Well, both of them are great actors. Because, for example, Pepón Nieto has done a lot of drama that are marvelous, and Sekun is, amazing. And when they are fighting, I say, do this, do that. What I say? Okay, I stop and you drive, but we are not chasing that. That moment is amazing. I always say, I have to confess something when they are on the cross. Okay, they for me, secondary characters, but amazing.
Well, they're also Álex regulars as well. I mean, Pepón ended up playing in Mi Gran Noche as the ordinary extra who falls in love with Blanca Suarez. He was in the most recent one, Perfectos Desconocidos.
Yeah, that's Es Perfectos Desconocidos. That is a remake from a French movie. Okay, but so.
He was great in it, though.
Yeah.
Pepón is he's got that hangdog look about him. He's the quintessential loser, but he's fantastic. Absolutely. Yeah. He's the nobody, that he celebrates in Mi Gran Noche.
They're one of my favorite actors in Mi Gran Noche, together with Terele Pávez and the Cross.
Oh, yes, of course. And that's Terele again with the crucifix, right?
Yeah.
And she gets to share the helicopter at the end with Alfonso, played by Raphael, who sang Ballad of the Sad Trumpet.
Yeah, yes, because, Raphael, that is the singer, is like an icon here in Spain. He was in all those kind of programs, and in all the gossiping shows, but it's very, very big here in Spain and in South America. And wow, Mi Gran Noche is a song that I can sing without hesitation. ¿Qué pasará?
See, watching that the first time, I didn't get any of that. Watching it the second time with the help of YouTube, I'm like, that is genius casting. Raphael as Alfonso and basing the entire film basically around that one joke is a stroke of genius. That's why that film's in my top 5, Álex.
So, Elena, you said that you didn't necessarily care for witching and bitching, and I'm curious what your take on it is.
I don't like this kind of, how can I say, acid humor, acid sense of hatred behind jokes on women. Because apart from, men talk and so, Well, actually, women are portrayed in 4 or 5 different kinds. First, the divorced wife who is obsessed with the husband and wants to, fuck him till the end, getting the boy, son, the children in general. Then very, beautiful. Well, there are actually 2 very hot women in the movie. One is Mario's Cassas' girlfriend, and second is Carolina Banks' character. And in the presence of that, of both women, men cannot behave, cannot make love because they feel, underestimated or whatever. The rest are just witches, hysterical women, so that portrait, I didn't like it at all.
Do you think it's no coincidence that the film was written by 2 men?
No, because they have worked together. Álex de la Iglesia and Guerrica Echevarría. That man has worked he's the writer, a professional writer, of course, and he was also behind the Oxford Murders, if I remember well, a movie that is about jails in Spain that is called Celda 211. I don't know if you're familiar with that. El Niño, that is a kinky movie. And it doesn't have those kind of jokes. I think this is something from Álex de la Iglesia, because he has those kind of jokes, not referring to women, but in general. In Muertos de Risa, that is also very politically correct movie. But in this case, I have a sense of, of hatred behind. So that's why I didn't like it so much, because some of the jokes, the things they say, yes, it's a direct attack against women. Because in the moment, for example, in which Carolina Banks is following Hugo Silva, because she's trying to save him after everything happens, and she says, but I'm saving you, etc. And she says, and what's happening with the others? Say, so you prefer to be with your friends than with me. And they have a strange kind of conversation, and she becomes like hysterical. And he says something like, you don't have to behave like that just because. And I think this is a direct attack, a kind of, I don't know, a portrait of the behavior of a woman that's is not very accurate and has something behind. That's why I didn't like so much. It's true that in Spain, this movie was criticized because of all these jokes against women. That's why I started this podcast explaining the living situation or the marital situation he was going through.
It's like Zulawski's Possession. Like you can really feel the divorce going on in Possession, and yeah, I can kind of feel it here too with all this. And yeah, that argument of you'd rather be with your friends than be with me, I've heard that argument between men and women before, and it just drives me crazy, and really paints women to be so possessive and completely outrageous.
But aside from the overt misogyny,
I mean, apart from that, it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
It definitely makes me appreciate frogs a lot more. That scene of her dousing herself with frog juice was pretty intense.
I don't know if, I don't know there, Australia or United States, but in Spain and in France, eating the frog legs is something that is very luxurious.
I think outside of France, it's like a joke that you would go to a French restaurant and order frog's legs. I don't think we would ever actually stick them. Australians would never stick them in our mouths. We'd probably lick them for their psychotropic qualities, but definitely not consume them.
There are snails on her plate.
I was very surprised when you mentioned earlier, Andrew, the fertility goddess, and I was very surprised when that ends up being, I mean, even though we've seen the fertility goddess in the opening credits, but that is what the big bad of the movie is, and that whole ritual, I mean, that is insane. And I love the music during that scene. It's really pretty good song that they're rocking out to during that large gathering of all those witches with summoning that fertility goddess.
You're obviously building up to a moment, with the hour and a half that's come before that final sequence. How are you going to top it but bring out the big bitch, the cruel mother, with this rope head and pendulous overflowing breasts and that see-through anus? For some reason, you can see the child go right the way through her alimentary canal. It's a scene topper. It's a film topper. It's the money shot, I think, out of Witching and Bitching. I can't think of a film other than King Kong versus Godzilla where I've gone, whoa, that was cool.
I think we all rewatched the movie. What do you think of the special effects? Because,
I was trying to think, okay, 2013 could have been better. I think it probably could have. But having just watched Spawn, I am being very tolerant of a lot of bad special effects lately, just because those were so terrible.
I don't have a problem with bad effects. I mean, I grew up in the 70s watching eighth generation Betamax bootlegs of the most terrible films known to mankind. So, I mean, I was grilled by a 35-year-old Gen Y the other day, about the appalling effects in David Cronenberg's The Fly. I said, what are you talking about? They were great.
What?
I said, they're puppets. I said, that's the whole point. My brain is wired differently to yours. I can look at a puppet and go, well, that actually exists in real life. And they go, what a, I can pretty much see the wires. I'm like, God damn it. I definitely can't criticize the appearance of the cruel mother, but I do find incredibly cool the walking across the ceiling and Torella Paves scuttling across the ceiling, which reminded me of that scene in Exorcist 3, right? Where old mental patient, does this, this scuttlebutt across the ceiling of the insane ward. And I was getting flashbacks like that, watching the ceiling stuff. I thought those kind of practical effects were really well integrated.
Yeah, I did like the party preparation when she's just walking along the ceiling, and I could see, how they could do that effect fairly easily, but I thought that was effective. And there were moments with the mother goddess that I was like, okay, this works. But then I think especially when she was moving around, that's when it got a little iffy for me, when she comes in and when she leaves and when she goes on her little rampage. And I was very surprised that some of the witches that got stomped on ended up coming back in the very final scene.
Talking about that part of the movie, I think in this case, cinematography is amazing because, the long suits as they doing the travelings from the crows, the crows people to the mother, is like a Baroque picture. I don't know if you're familiar with European Baroque or witching pictures, for example, Goya's dark paintings. It's exactly the same colors, the same place, all the elements.
I thought it was Bruegel-esque almost.
And I think that part is amazing, So the people like it's, water, the cross guys, the mother at the end.
And the dunce caps.
Yeah. I just love that.
There was some very nice composition in there. And I was very curious when they get into that cave area, and I was just like, is that a giant chair? Is that a giant table? I couldn't tell if it was like a weird perspective thing. And then when the mother goddess comes in, I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, this makes sense. She's going to sit down and tuck into a nice meal.
Hence the novelty oversized cutlery.
Which she doesn't really use. She's much more just grab them and swallow them whole, which is good for all of our male characters that go through the alimentary canal.
Yeah, much more feral, I think. She could afford to be.
There's a lot of talk about the son being this chosen one, and really, we don't get a whole lot more about that other than he seems to be able to do some great magic in the very final scene where he puts those metal plates through the little girl, and when she comes out and she's got all the blood all over her.
And he shows the audience the bleeding torso. That was...
I love just how outrageous these films are. Just how brutal, how colorful, how wild they get. And like I said, this movie starts with that. To me, it gets balls out right at the beginning. And then there are moments where I'm like, okay, it's about to get back to that level. And sometimes it achieves it. And other times I'm just like, okay, yeah, I wish you would have gone farther. Even with the very end scene, I was like, okay, I think this could have gone a little bit farther than what you've done. Even to see the kid pass through the mother goddess's anus and then her swallowing the skinny guy and him getting caught up in there.
I think I must be a lot more forgiving than you because I just enjoyed the ride. Speaking of trying to top that initial 10-minute sequence, I don't think you really can. All you can do is change gears. You know, as I mentioned before that Álex himself calls these films, you know, his mean and his dumb films. I call them his punk rock films. Acción Mutante, Dia de la Bestia, and this one, these are very punk rock. You know, they're loud, vulgar, stupid, and basically a fuck you to critics, you know, to the genteel tastes of the bourgeoisie that he's clearly trying to offend. And I love that punk rock spirit, but I also love the intent behind films like The Last Circus, where he's using humor as a very sharp weapon, you know, right into he's reopening the scars of Spain you can see, you know, in the process of making that film. So as much as I love Witching and Bitching, I do actually prefer his more serious films, the serious / bleakly funny films, rather than the balls out, you know, throw everything at the wall kind of films. But having said that, you know, as far as stupid punk rock films go, this is pretty damn stupid and wonderful.
I'm in love with The Day of the Beast, but because I think that's the first Álex de la Iglesia I saw, also it has a meaning related to my adolescence, so you know. But for example, one of my favorites is Muertos de Risa, you know, the one about the comedy duo. And also I love Crimen Perfecto, because it's the kind of humor we have here and the one I enjoy.
That's one of his best comedies, I think, like straight comedies.
For example, the one that's the La Chispa de la Vida, I didn't like it at all. Too mainstream.
I didn't think it was funny.
No, not even funny. And I think any director could have done that. We didn't need Álex de la Iglesia for that one.
Well, same as Perfectos Desconocidos. That could have been made by anyone, and in fact, it was made by someone else initially.
Before.
I honestly couldn't see the point of remaking a film almost frame by frame.
No, I didn't like that one. And also the TV show that's called Plutón Verbenero, that was bullshit. It wasn't funny at all. It didn't have any kind of sense. Okay, no, it's not Pluton. Pluton is the you know, the planet, but that is not a planet. But in Spanish, to be a hookah or a bitch or it's called puta. Okay, when you say puton, is a big whore. We have an expression that is Plutón Verbenero. Verbena is a kind of party, okay? When we have, you know, you shoot and you get gifts and those kind of parties with, you know, the sugar cane or the apples with sugar, those kind of things. So, but the expression is Plutón Verbenero. Plutón Verbenero is a woman who enjoys having sex with everybody. So the name of the TV show is a kind of joke in Spanish.
So you didn't like that one?
No, it's awful. And also 30 coins. So. But my favorite
liked it.
Not so much. But my favorite is The Day of the Beast. Because also I live in Madrid. When I visit the city center, I always think of the movie.
That's his metal film.
What's your favorite Álex de la Iglesias movie, Mike?
Oh, it has to be De la Bestia. I love that one so much. And I think it's one of those, it was my first, but I rewatched it again the other day. I'm like, I want to sing from the rooftops how much I love that movie.
Good.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Yeah, and the first time I saw it was like a really shitty VHS. And so when I watched it again the other day, it was Blu-ray. And I was like, oh, wow, this movie looks fantastic. I always thought that it just was kind of junky. But then watching it again, I was like, oh, okay, this looks really nice.
Do you have the edition with the documentary on it?
I don't think I do, no. Yeah, I bought Witching and Bitching, which was supposed to have all these extras, and all the extras were just basically fluff pieces. It was like, yeah, we're going to do this great thing. It was basically like 5-minute segments that they would have shown someplace to, I don't know, just convince people that this movie is worth checking out. And I'm like,
electronic press kit, probably.
Yeah. It's like, right. I've already bought the movie. I don't really need these. And you're not really telling me anything that I don't know already. Most of the clips and everything that they were doing were, just little talking head bits and clips from the movies, very few behind the scenes things. I'm like, okay, thanks for wasting my time.
So no one could be asked going back and making a documentary about a 26-year-old film. What a bummer.
All right, guys, let's go ahead and take a break, and we're going to play a preview for next week's show right after these brief messages.
Sick of those trivia podcasts that you don't even understand how to operate and they just have too many levers and buttons?
There's got to be a better way.
Now there is, with Good Job Brain, an offbeat quiz show and trivia podcast that makes learning new things easy and fun.
I just learned that artificial vanilla flavoring sometimes comes from the anal glands of a beaver, and now I can never shake that mental image. Thanks, Good Job Brain.
Good Job Brain is available for the low price of just 4 easy payments of free. It's a podcast.
Good Job Brain is part of Airwave Media and available on all podcast apps. Operators are standing by.
In 1985, a curious phenomenon occurred. The Twilight Zone returned to television, featuring all new tales of mystery and imagination from the minds of Ray Bradbury, Harlan Ellison, George R.R. Martin, and Stephen King. Dreams for Sale, the Twilight Zone 85 podcast looks back at that land of shadow and substance and re-examines the groundbreaking successor to Rod Serling's legacy. Featuring new interviews with the show's creators and cast, Dreams for Sale can be found on iTunes and at twilightzone85.com. Dreams for Sale. We'll be waiting for you in the Twilight Zone.
Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a newspaper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent News Service, sir, founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Have a hunger for horror? A yen for yelp yarns? Then give your blood-curdled bones a boon and tune in to Chronicles from the Crypt. Join sordid slime slingers Casualty Chris and Father Malone as they take on HBO's groundbreaking television series, Tales from the Crypt. Here's what the rotting and rancid rabble are saying about Chronicles from the Crypt. Tune in to Chronicles from the Crypt. You have nothing to lose except your life.
When was the last time you were afraid? Really afraid? 20th Century Fox presents The Mephisto Waltz, the sound of terror. Who are the beautiful people of the occult? What is the incredible secret of the black dog called Robin? What terrifying rituals do they perform by the light of a black candle? Brace yourself for the ultimate transplant, the human soul. Brace yourself for the Mephisto Waltz, starring Alan Alda, Jacqueline Bisset, Barbara Parkins, and Kurt Juergens. The Mephisto Waltz, rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent. Brace yourself for the sound of terror. It comes every time you hear the Mephisto Waltz.
That's right, we'll be back next week with a look at the Mephisto Waltz. Until then, I want to thank this week's co-hosts, Elena and Andrew. So, Andrew, what is happening in your world, sir?
Since I was on your show last time, I've still been working on the same documentaries. I've still been working on the same books, but I can't leave Queensland. I can't leave my home state to go to work anywhere. So I've been selling movies and making my own T-shirts on trashvideoarchives.com. I basically restarted my old video shop as an online store, and I'm making some cool looking shirts. So check it out, trashvideoarchives.com.
And Elena, what's been keeping you busy?
I'm working on my website. That's SpanishFear.com. That's about the Spanish horror, and it's in English, of course. In the past, I got the Horror Rises from Spain podcast that was in English, but nowadays in Spanish. But you can check the old shows because they are on the site if you are interested. I'm working on basically on the site on YouTube because sometimes I revise or review movies in English or some interesting merchandise or books related to Spanish horror with the Patreon for the website, trying to get the money to pay the domain and to pay some writers that we are starting to have on the site. You know, Spanish horror, fantaterror. You cannot see, but I have my Paul Nassy cushion.
I didn't notice that before. Oh my God, that's genius. So who are your favorite Spanish horror filmmakers?
I love one of my favorites, Eugenio Martín, the candle for the devil.
Horror Express. I grew up with that film.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Trans-Siberian Express.
Yeah, and the second is Chichi Bañez Serrador, the one behind Who Can Kill a Child. And nowadays, I really love Paco Plaza, for example. It's one of my favorites. You know, for Veronica and Rec also.
Well, thank you so much, folks, for being on the show. Thanks to everybody for listening. Thanks especially to our Patreon community. If you want to join the community, visit patreon.com/projection booth. Every donation we get helps the projection booth take over the world.